Welcome, gentle viewer, to CivIntrep, your civilian intelligence report for the week of 14 June 2020. We have a new story today because this is our first week. Civil unrest with a rating of 3, projected as a 4 Bravo. The current status. Protests have taken place over the past few weeks all across the country in the wake of the killing of Minnesotan man George Floyd. Some of these protests have devolved into violence, including rioting, looting, and attacks on police. To date, 22 people have died in related violence. Locations of significant violence and property damage include the following cities as of the time of this report: Atlanta, Georgia; Austin, Texas; Boston, Massachusetts; Chicago, Illinois; Cincinnati, Ohio; Cleveland, Ohio; Denver, Colorado; Fort Worth, Texas; Jacksonville, Florida; Los Angeles, California; Miami, Florida; Minneapolis, Minnesota; New York, New York; Philadelphia, Pennsylvania; Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania; Portland, Oregon; San Diego, California; San Francisco, California; Scottsdale, Arizona; Seattle, Washington; St. Louis, Missouri; Tampa, Florida; and Washington, D.C. Many of these cities have instituted curfews to address the rioting and violence. Protesters are demanding numerous reforms, primarily regarding policing. Some of the common demands made by protesters across the country include partially or fully to defunding the police, to institute police training reforms, to reinvest police funds into minority communities, and dropping charges against protesters. In response to the demands, a number of the cities have dropped charges against protesters. Some are discussing defunding their police departments, most notably Minneapolis, which has already voted to do so. Some cities are also making moves to give various city properties to local communities. There have been reports of Antifa instigating violence at protests and stoking rioting. However, these reports have been conflicting, and a number have been found to be unsubstantiated. Due to the scope of the protests and rioting, it is likely that there are some participants who align themselves with Antifa. However, there does not appear to be any evidence that Antifa or Antifa-aligned groups are playing a widespread role in initiating or organizing the violence. However, there is some evidence that some of the riots have been organized, though it is unclear who is responsible. The National Guard has been deployed widely across the country to support local police forces in areas the hardest hit with violence. It appears that deployment of the National Guard is an effective means of providing security for areas experiencing widespread violence. Analysis on this topic. This event was evaluated to be a level 3 due to its widespread impact. The protests and riots, while widespread, are focused in a selection of large cities, and within them localized to certain areas. Wider effects to the economy and distribution networks have not been noted. The projected effect is a 4 Bravo. It is possible that civil unrest could mature beyond the general rioting and looting and coalesce in the form of more organized and pointed attacks on police and government facilities. There have been examples of this, but they are limited in complexity and frequency, and therefore do not currently warrant a higher rating. The recent establishment of the autonomous zone in Seattle and the failed efforts to establish one in Portland may represent a larger trend, but it is currently not large enough of an issue to affect the assessment. Uncertainties. Due to the number of events, organizations, and general decentralization of this event, capturing the full scope of it is difficult. In reality, this is an amalgamation of thousands of Level 1 events, making generalizations difficult. If you know of details that would help round out this evaluation, please let us know in the comments or at civintrep@gmail.com. New story. COVID-19. Rating 5. Projection 3 Charlie. Current status. The CDC recently updated their guidance on how COVID-19 spreads. Their current findings indicate that COVID-19 spreads easily between people. It does not spread as well as measles, but better than influenza. The general trend of new cases continues to decline from the peak in April of approximately 35,000 new cases a day to approximately 20,000 new cases a day now. We are watching the new cases numbers closely over the next week to see if there is any resulting increase associated with the protests nationwide. The resulting increase, or lack of one, will likely provide helpful information in regard to the level of safety of outdoor activities, even ones with limited adherence to mask and social distancing guidelines. A slightly older source from mid-May, but a factor to consider in the effort to expand testing, is that in many locations, the limiting factor of testing is not the number of tests, but the number of people going to get tested. Vaccine development continues, with 23 companies independently working to develop a vaccine. Normally, vaccines take 5 to 10 years to develop, but many companies hope to have approved vaccines in an unprecedented 12 to 18 months timeline. A number of vaccine candidates have already begun human trials. Lockdowns have ended across the country, with New Jersey being the only state with an ongoing lockdown order. Many states still have some restrictions in place, particularly for businesses that generally cater to crowds. A positive secondary outcome of the lockdowns is that the flu season was cut short by 6 weeks. Analysis. This is a level 5 event due to the widespread lockdown orders and extreme economic impacts. Everyone's lives have been directly affected. Projected effect 3 Bravo. As better treatments, vaccines, testing, and risk mitigation methods are developed, our ability to return to a level of normal will improve. Additionally, most lockdown orders have ended, and most businesses have been allowed to reopen. Uncertainties. Due to the newness of the disease, the poor quality of data coming from the epicenter due to a lack of quality Chinese reporting, and a limited ability to test people for the virus, there are still a lot of uncertainties as to the scope and transmission risk of the disease. New story. Government action. So 3, projected 5 Charlie. Current status. The federal debt has topped $26 trillion, including an increase of $2 trillion in the past 2 months. Much of the money was related to the CARES Act and was used for direct payments to individuals and loans to businesses. President Trump has signed 2 executive orders recently, one on freedom of speech and one on regulatory relief. Both are significant, but the effects are currently limited in impact, and broader impacts are not currently clear. Analysis. This is level 3. The payments being provided to individuals and loans for businesses were very widely distributed and have impacted a significant portion of the population materially. Projected effect 5 Charlie. It is our best assessment that these and potential additional payments legislated in the future could contribute to a notable increase in inflation. However, there is much debate among economic experts on the topic in regards to the long-term economic impacts of the large infusion of money into the economy, as well as the long-term impacts of rising federal debt. Therefore, we put the future impact potential as high, 5, but the probability low, Charlie. Uncertainties. The pace of the economic recovery, the passage of future relief measures, and the disagreements among economists as to the limits of federal spending and debt make this a very difficult topic to assess from a risk perspective. See the video description for references regarding each of these stories. The numbers of each reference are listed in the story. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get these weekly reports on the news and not all of the fluff. Finally, gentle viewer, stay informed, make good decisions, and have a wonderful day.